Welcome back to Once Upon a Curious Mind. Tonight's story comes from a small riverside town where the scent of fresh bread drifted through the streets each morning, and one baker quietly wished for something more. Let's begin. The Baker Who Baked the Moon. Once upon a quiet evening in a small riverside town, there lived a baker named Tomas. Tomas loved bread the way some people love music. Before the sun rose, he would already be at his wooden table, sleeves rolled up, kneading dough with steady hands while the town still slept. By morning, the streets would fill with the warm scent of fresh loaves, and people said his bread tasted like comfort itself. But Tomas had one small secret. Every night, after sweeping flour from the floor and closing the shop shutters, he stepped outside and looked up at the moon. It hung there, round and gentle, glowing softly over the rooftops. "I wish," Tomas would whisper, smiling to himself, "I could bake something as beautiful as that." One autumn evening, just as Tomas was about to close the bakery, the bell above the door rang. A traveler stepped in, wrapped in a weathered cloak, eyes bright with curiosity. "Still baking dreams?" the traveler asked kindly. Tomas chuckled. "I bake bread, not dreams." The traveler tilted his head. "Sometimes they're the same thing." He ordered the simplest loaf Tomas had, ate it slowly, and when he finished, he reached into his pocket and placed a small silver measuring spoon on the counter. "Use this," he said, "when you bake with your whole heart." Before Tomas could ask another question, the traveler was gone, leaving only the soft echo of the doorbell behind him. That night, Tomas stood in his quiet bakery, holding the little spoon. He didn't know why, but it felt important. So instead of making his usual dough, he tried something new. He added warm honey for sweetness, a pinch of cinnamon for warmth, a little extra time for patience. And when it came time to measure the flour, he used the silver spoon. The dough felt different beneath his hands, softer, lighter somehow. Tomas shaped it carefully into a round loaf, smoother than any he'd made before, and slid it into the oven. When he opened the oven door later, the bakery filled with a glow he had never seen. The loaf sat there, golden and round, its surface softly shining in the dim room. Tomas lifted it out, almost afraid to touch it. It looked exactly like the moon. Not bright like fire, but gentle, warm, quietly beautiful. Tomas laughed in amazement. "Well," he said softly, "that's something." The next morning, people stopped in their tracks when they passed the bakery window. "What is that?" someone whispered. Tomas sliced the bread and offered pieces to anyone curious enough to try it. They tasted honey, warmth, and something else they couldn't quite name. "It tastes like home," one woman said. "It tastes like when everything feels okay," another said. By midday, the loaf was gone, and Tomas had orders for 10 more. From that day on, Tomas baked the moon-shaped bread every full moon night. People came from nearby towns just to taste it. Children would stand outside the bakery after sunset, pointing up at the sky and down at the warm golden loaves in the window. Tomas never saw the traveler again, but he kept the silver spoon in a small wooden box beside his mixing bowl. Sometimes he wondered if the magic was in the spoon, but deep down, he knew better, because whenever Tomas rushed, the bread didn't glow. Whenever he baked carelessly, it was just bread again. Only when he worked slowly, patiently, and with care did the moon return. And so Tomas understood something important. Magic wasn't in the spoon. It was in the way he baked. And from then on, the little riverside town believed that sometimes the most magical things aren't made by spells or secrets at all, but by patience, kindness, and a hopeful heart. And if you ever pass through that town on a full moon night, you might still see a warm golden loaf in the window, quietly glowing. And so, in that little riverside town, people learned that magic doesn't always arrive with sparks or thunder. Sometimes it rises slowly, like warm bread in an oven, shaped by patience, kindness, and a hopeful heart. Thank you for listening. If this story brought you a little warmth tonight, you're always welcome here at Once Upon a Curious Mind, where every curious heart has a story waiting.